Hello and welcome to Ticket Manager's All Access interview series, engaging leaders from across the sports marketing spectrum to identify and explore critical issues in the business of sports, entertainment, sponsorship, activation, ticketing, hospitality, you name it. I'm your host, Jim Andrews. Joining me on this episode to discuss what it's like to be on the ground floor of a new professional sports franchise, as well as the transition from sponsorship buyer to seller, is Nick Kelly, president of Charlotte Football Club. Welcome, Nick. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jim. I appreciate you at the time and obviously the opportunity.
Yeah, this is great, and I know you're busy, got a lot going on, and kind of want to start there. With a new club like Charlotte FC, you're building out an entire operation from scratch. Partnership sales, ticket sales, human resources, all of that stuff. I know you've been hiring lots of folks, and that's of course great news. Just looking at the sponsorship function specifically, I would imagine that the opportunity to kind of start with a blank slate is both a blessing and a curse. Would I be right in that assumption?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's really exciting to start with a clean slate, that there is no we've always done it this way conversation, or there is no ceiling or floor currently, which is good. I think that the hard part is just that we're trying to educate a market that's tailored to NFL and NASCAR and NBA, where their understanding of the soccer landscape is challenging. So it's a fun challenge because it's a little bit of a unique scenario, maybe more so than a new market like Austin, is that there is partners in the building. Like we have the Panthers there, and so there's a Bank of America, there's Anheuser-Busch, there's others. So we have to take into consideration some existing, call it Tepper sports partners, and help them educate them on the opportunity and the complementary opportunity with Charlotte FC, as opposed to it's the same fan base. And I think that that's been the biggest education piece from a research standpoint, is sharing the eye-opening information that the people that are going to come to a Charlotte FC match this season, especially on a more consistent basis, aren't necessarily coming to Bank of America to watch Panthers. And I think that in and of itself has been, probably the biggest conversation starter with a lot of these people, because they think, well, I've got the Panthers, it's going to be the same people. And we show that the overlap's less than 5%. They're like, oh, wow, I can hit another 500,000 people coming into the venue next year that I'm not hitting with the Panthers. Tell me more. So that has been extremely exciting. And just the other part too of, we can talk to partners that we don't have an existing relationship within the building, so to expand the greater opportunity, have it be banking, have it be anything else. So, that's where we're in a unique position. While it is daunting to try and bring on new partners, because we started with one when I started, which was Ally, and now we're trying to get to, call it 20 or 30. It's also, fun. I think that I didn't know that I knew I would wear a lot of hats, but essentially going out there and selling, as probably everything from tickets to sponsorships to community initiatives. I'm the ultimate non-experienced salesperson now, because I'm selling. That's all I do all day.
And I would imagine too, with the first match not for about another year, your players aren't in market yet. We're lost last year to COVID, obviously. So what's that process like in terms of kind of generating excitement among the fans first in Charlotte? Love to hear a little bit about that, but then also how that ties into talking to the sponsors. And is it reasonable to expect them to kind of jump on board this early, or are you anticipating you might have to wait a little bit before that excitement builds? How does that all work?
It's extremely challenging because of, let's say, COVID I would made it a little bit easier today. We're talking the middle of March, early April, where we're in a position of, now that the vaccine's rolling out a little bit better, even though I've been here 7 weeks, and even from the first week to now, the conversations, tone and tenor has dramatically shifted of hey, we don't know when we're going to get out of this, to hey, we expect you to have a full stadium. So I think that the conversations have been a lot more progressive. The challenging part for us is I'm selling air. I don't have any players. I don't have a baseline to even show you the attendance numbers, the ratings, anything. And even the traditional stuff that I could sell, which would be social media impressions and things like that. I'm trying to build a social media platform. So I'm selling the dream, and we're selling the belief that we're going to be a top ranked franchise. And ultimately at that point, I'm selling myself, I'm selling our ownership and our GM that like we will be able to deliver it, because right now, I mean, we really aren't, we can't deliver it and guarantee you anything. So that's why what makes it probably the most challenging sell in the industry right now is that doing it in a pandemic, but just doing it at all is extremely hard. And so I think that that's been fun. I think that the only other piece that, that doesn't I don't take for granted is the fact that having sat on the other side, on the brand side, is that we've gotten really good at listening, which I think has always been a problem with, a lot of teams and leagues when they come in to sell a brand is, they kind of know the assets they have to sell and they try and cram them into a partnership because they have so many minutes of LED time and they have whatever. So what we've done, at least from a change standpoint, is we go in and do an introductory meeting of like, this is what we expect out of the franchise. This is who we are. This is what we stand for. And we don't sell them anything. We basically sell us and the dream and the belief. And then we ask them like, what is it that you're looking to do in the marketplace? Or what is it you're looking to do for the summertime, which is, the one key piece, and listen. And then we bring back a proposal because we're going in that we don't know any of these partners because we truly don't. And we're not taking it for granted the ones we have on the Panthers side that their objectives in the summertime or in the spring are the same as the ones they have in the fall with the Panthers. So it's been really good. And we've had a lot of really positive reception to that strategy, because I can tell you from having been on the other side, I only had that happen like 5 times out of like the 6 or 7 years I was there, where people just wanted to like hear what can we do for you. So that's kind of a shift in philosophy that we've had here.
Do you have kind of expectations around the timeline as to when you might start announcing and having those partners with you? Is it too early to kind of say?
No, we're probably going to start announcing in April, a handful of partners. So we obviously we had Ally when we launched the team because they're our kit sponsor. And they've been a phenomenal partner even in the last, year, even in the middle of a pandemic, trying to activate the brand. So they've been phenomenal, but we're looking at, we'll have 5 to 6 get announced in April or May. Then, we'll progressively, do stuff in the summertime. But one thing we're trying to do is just, because we need partners to make this a key summer platform, we're being pretty selective because I think that we need their help, maybe more so than they need us right now. Because and we have that transparent conversation of like, if you're a grocery store partner or you're a beer partner or whatever, like I need you to get our brand out in the marketplace. And we do value that. And I think that having that transparent conversation of, I don't necessarily need cash today. What I need is I need awareness and I need your marketing vehicle that you are, has led to a lot more long-term fruitful conversations of the give take, as opposed to, we're giving you all this value and we're going to take all your money. Like we know that there is other stuff that these partners as a startup company can do for us that we can't do ourselves. So that's where for us is announcing some of these partnerships sooner rather than later to get them out in the marketplace as we like ramp up to the first year is important, because we'll have some partners who just turn on the lights in March of next year when the season starts, and that's perfectly fine. But we need some partners now. Like there's almost like a responsibility. Like if you come on now, we need you to like help, like, basically motivate the fans to get re-engaged now that, we're less than a year out.
And I think that probably leads to just, interesting conversations and conversations that, long term are probably really beneficial, because I think we've all learned over the years, those of us who have been doing it for a while, that, this business shouldn't be transactional, and it shouldn't be necessarily about how much cash are you going to give me to buy this, set of rights and benefits, right? It should be about, hey, how can we promote each other and really work on getting some creative things into the marketplace. So you're the situation almost kind of forcing those conversations in your case, but long term, that's probably a really good thing.
Yeah, and we're in a very, very unique position is that, we're such a data focused, or at least we're instilling a data focused mindset here of showing that it works, the ROI and everything else. And, so much so that we've done a bunch of research. We're in the middle of doing a bunch of research right now to understand the baseline of every category and our fan base and what their impressions are with no partners. So we want to understand if once we do have partners on board, like this, the one challenge a lot of teams have is that if you're the Cubs, just to pick on the Cubs, and you've had a partner for 100 years, it's hard to show that you can, you're making any impact there because they've been your partner for 100 years. We can truly show 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now, is it doing anything for you? And I think that that's where it's, we're in a very unique spot. If we do the upfront work, which we're doing now, it'll allow us to do a better job of telling the brand story of the impact and honestly what's working and not working. Because if we have partners who are coming in and we're seeing a huge lift in either brand awareness or even brand lift and some of their other key metrics, like we want to make sure that we're replicating that across. So I think that that's where we're in a little bit of a advantageous state of taking advantage of a fresh start. But there's so many things you only get a chance to do once. So we want to make sure that we're doing it now. And we're not sitting here 12 months from now thinking, man, I really wish I would have done X, Y, and Z. So that's the one thing is just managing that time of making sure you're getting the right stuff out there now while you have a clean slate.
And I would imagine for the companies and the brands that you're approaching, I would think that they would appreciate the perspective that you're bringing, right? I mean, you were, let's face it, a pretty prominent figure in sponsorship during your entire time at AB InBev. That obviously lends a unique perspective to when you're sitting down and talking to these brands. How would you say your experience as a buyer kind of informs what you're doing as a seller? I mean, it sounds like a little bit of that was coming through in what you were just talking about.
I think that it's been interesting to see the people I've stayed in touch with as it relates to from the sell side. And the reason is because we formed a genuine relationship that wasn't just transactional. And I think that those partnerships, now that I look back on it, were probably some of the better partnerships, period, because we had the two-way communication of what's working and not working, and had candid conversations. And we would literally, either just change assets on the fly. And it was never a conversation about value or money. And I think we're trying to reflect that same thing here, is that we know at the end of the day, if we're building partnerships that work for our partners, that the money conversation will come and it's a lot easier. I think that the second piece is, having sat where I sat in the short time I've been here, there's not a conversation that I'm having here that I haven't had before, either tough or easy. And I think that it is a little bit disarming for when I go into a meeting with some of these partners, because I can speak their language as it relates to measuring ROI and assets and stuff like that. And it's not a hard sell, because I think that, I've sat in enough presentations when I was on the other side of the table of I didn't love the overly salesy piece. I love the more like, how does this work? Why is it, what's the ROI? Like, let's, figure this out, versus the wine and dine. So like, I have to get better at the wine and dine, because some people just do like that. But I think it's much more of if we can make it make sense, and we can make sure that it hits your targets from a company standpoint, it'll be the easiest conversation, because we're not going to nickel dime. And the other part is too, it's more philosophical and practical, and less, dollars and cents and asset value, etc. Like, we just want it to work, because we don't take for granted the fact that like, you have faith in us to deliver something right now that we have nothing. So we do want to honor that whenever we're having these negotiations and these conversations. So it's been, I would say my background has definitely helped in a unique way as we go out in the middle of a pandemic trying to sell air.
Along those same lines, I mean, you really a leader in kind of pushing for sponsorships to demonstrate return on objectives, return on investment. Very well known for introducing the pay for performance model in your last role. So now that you're on the other side of the table, are you still a proponent of that approach, now that you're going to be the one that has to kind of prove the performance?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm 100% a proponent for it. Or, I mean, I'm sure just about every ownership hates it because there's no guarantee. But I actually still like it a lot, because what it's done is that, in some of the recent conversations and partnerships that we finalize, is it makes us bring everybody into a contract partnership discussion. And it's not just the partnership salesperson or just like the account rep. It's like, we have our digital team, we have our marketing team coming up with ideas that help us and help them, as opposed to, hey, this brand wants to do 5 posts on what the players are wearing. Right. Well, the hard part is I have no players right now. And the second part is like, I don't know that we're going to do that anyway. So like instead of having our partners dictate to us what it is we should be doing on social media, it's having collaborate of like, here's what we want to do. Like, does it ladder with what you're doing? And if the answer is no, being transparent. And I think that that's where it's very much having that transparent conversation makes us more comfortable to take those incentive laden deals because we know not only will we achieve them, like we also know that we will build plans to make sure we hit them and do more. And I think that that's the one piece that I saw when I was at AB was the teams that always would achieve their incentives were very much like they had a plan in place and they would present their plan to us like this is what we're going to do this season. And it literally laddered up to all the key initiatives that we had because they were financially incentivized. So like the model itself still works extremely well. It's just like now being on the other side, it's just training your organization who isn't currently built that way to adapt. And that was always the focus of that. So I love them. I tried to do something recently where we flipped it on the partners and tried to give them incentives, but it was the opposite way around. Like we would give them decreases in expenditures if they activated in a certain way. And it just got too complex too fast. Like I think that it became one of the conversations we had with a CPG company was if they did a certain number of packages that had our IP, we would do a reduction on their fee because it would be like free marketing to us. But it just got so complicated about how they would measure or approve it and stuff like that. But like with that, it goes back to where we started, which is like we know the value they have, so we almost try to flip it on ourselves. And it's just we'll have a partner, I'm sure, who will take it, but it was very much we know what we need today, which is awareness. And so we tried to help motivate our partners to get us out there.
I love those kind of creative conversations, like I said earlier. And I've seen that a couple of times. We used to do that, we called it an activation credit, right? If you hit those kind of targets. But as you say, sometimes they're great ideas, and unfortunately they kind of fall apart in the details, having to work through, especially with large organizations. Which is a shame, but we know that that's bound to happen in some cases.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I think that we'll figure it out. Somebody who's a little bit more maybe local or nimble. But I mean, it's just that to your point, like we need the activation piece for us is that we need partners who aren't just like buying LED and calling it a day. So it'll be good. I think it's it's more of I'm not bored by any means because I mean I'm extremely busy every day. But it's the opportunity to come up with like these kind of creative things differently is what's always fun about like being in my old job, my current job is like how do we do it differently for everybody as opposed to like cut and paste over and over again.
Nick, we're excited to see what's next and to hear some of those announcements coming up and just to kind of to follow along as you build out the team both on the field and off the field over the next year. So we'll definitely check back in with you and see how things are going, and just want to say thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thanks so much, Jim. I really appreciate the opportunity and really look forward to getting the season started here in less than a year.
Yeah, I bet. Well, thank you. And on behalf of everyone at Ticket Manager, thank all of you for watching. And please join us again for the next episode in the All Access interview series.